I'm Swimming Pool Steve, and I'd like to give you 3.5 reasons why you should be using liquid chlorine in your swimming pool. So let's just take care of that half reason right off the bat. So, alternatives to chlorine are a thing, they're out there. People are interested in alternatives to chemical sanitizers in their swimming pool. And they are by and large expensive and not always effective and technically complex and not a easy conversation to have. If you're looking for something easy, definitely an alternative to chlorine is not something that you should be looking for. So that is kind of the half reason is not a reason to use liquid chlorine in particular, but just chlorine in general and why you kind of end up having to use it, or a lot of people do. So let's talk about why liquid chlorine in particular might be useful to you to use in your swimming pool. Liquid chlorine is the cheapest way to buy and use chlorine in your swimming pool. There are other options out there. You could buy chlorine pucks or chlorine granules, or there are alternatives, but they're almost all going to cost more, and some of them a lot more than liquid chlorine. Liquid chlorine is widely available. It's something that you can get pretty much at every pool store. In addition to that, most pool stores will compete for your business because you need that chlorine. And so it gets you back into the store regularly. And they're hoping while you're there, you'll pick up some squirt guns and some new floaties for the pool and maybe a couple of other things. So they use the chlorine kind of as a loss leader. They make money, but the margins are tight. And it's more about getting customers in the store. And they reward you with things like reward cards. Buy 9, get the 10th jug of chlorine free. If you're shopping at a pool store now and you don't have that, ask about it. They might have a program like that already because, again, this is a competitive business, this liquid chlorine game. And that's one of the reasons why it's good for you as a pool owner to choose liquid chlorine for use in your pool. So, what is another reason why liquid chlorine might be a really good option for you? I would say probably the biggest alternative to the people who aren't using liquid chlorine. They're using chlorine pucks. And there's different kinds, but I'm talking about the kind which commonly have cyanuric acid in it, or stabilizer, stabilized chlorine pucks. So they're really cheap and easy, and lots of people use them, but they add cyanuric acid to the water every time you add chlorine to the water. The cyanuric acid builds up over time. It's hard to get rid of. You pretty much have to drain and refill with fresh water. And eventually you'll reach high levels, which kind of prevent the chlorine from doing its job. And you'll probably end up with green water in your swimming pool at some point. So liquid chlorine is an advantage in this regard because it is unstabilized. It is an unstabilized chlorine product. It does not contain any cyanuric acid. You can put as much liquid chlorine in your pool as you want. Your cyanuric acid levels will not change. This is a big advantage for pretty much all pools, and a huge advantage for some pools, because some pools you can't really drain and refill. There's water restrictions, or maybe that particular kind of pool really isn't meant to be drained at all. So how do you drain and refill? Well, you could pay for a reverse osmosis mobile treatment truck to come or something like that. But you're getting into expensive stuff, which you could avoid altogether if you didn't end up with high levels of cyanuric acid as a result of using stabilized chlorine products. You would avoid that if you use liquid chlorine in your pool. Here's another advantage of liquid chlorine. It's easy to use. An alternative might be cal hypo chlorine granules. And these are the kind that you might pre-dissolve in a bucket of water and stir it with a wooden stir stick. Something like that might commonly be done. But you know what? Those granules never fully dissolve, and there's always some in the bottom of the bucket. And when you pour it in, you try to be careful. You definitely don't want to see any sinking down to the bottom because there's some pool surfaces which could be damaged or stained from that. And so it's, inconvenient. The chlorine pucks, not really a great option because of that cyanuric acid thing I was just mentioning. And there are other cal hypo unstabilized chlorine pucks, but they need a special cal hypo erosion feeder in order to introduce them to the water in a safe and controlled way. And that's a little bit more expensive than some other options, a good few $100s for one of those erosion feeders. And so again, you're, committing to more money here, whereas liquid chlorine, by and large, my favorite method to use it would be to take the jug and pour it in front of the deep end return from the pool that while the pump is running. So you've got this big jet of water coming out into the pool, and you pour the liquid chlorine kind of slowly in front of that, and it basically just disperses it all immediately. And I do it over the deep end of the pool, so there's just more volume of water to get any that's kind of settling to the bottom, because I wouldn't want to create like a really dense pocket of chlorine on the bottom of a pool, which could potentially cause some staining issues or something like that. So pouring slowly in front of a deep end return works well. If you struggle to be able to lift something like that, I have heard some people mention that, oh, you just sit the jug right on the surface and you pour it like that. That way you're not lifting it so much as kind of just controlling it. And while I do appreciate that sentiment, and for some people you might not have another option, but I do worry that you're going to perhaps get some cross contamination there. I don't really like getting pool water back into the chlorine jug if I can avoid it, and a controlled pour allows me to avoid that. When I'm older and weaker, I'll probably have to find other methods, I guess. But yeah, adding liquid chlorine in front of a deep end return, probably your easiest overall method of adding chlorine to your pool. It's cheap, it's readily available, it's a low margin product that dealers will compete for your business on. So in general, liquid chlorine, I highly endorse it. If you found this information helpful, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can check out my website, swimmingpoolsteve.com.